In the quiet village of Umuaro, life moved slowly but surely. Children raced barefoot to the stream each morning, women fried akara by the roadside, and men gathered under the big mango tree, slapping draft boards and exchanging loud laughter. The village market bustled with cries of traders, while the air smelled of roasted maize and ripe pawpaw. It was a place where faces were familiar, secrets were whispered, and reputations rested on careful tongues. But on a particular Monday morning, something unusual stirred at the village junction. She came walking, not in the rushed, dusty way of traders, but in slow, deliberate steps, like a queen returning to her throne. Adanma. She was light-skinned, her curves full and striking, her face smooth as palm oil under sunlight. She wore a flowing red and gold dress, and under her arm, she carried a gold-bound book that shimmered when the sun caught it. High-heeled sandals clicked on the dusty road as she waved and smiled, greeting people she had never met. "Good morning, Mma Nnenna," she said cheerfully. The elderly woman, hunched beside her yam stall, frowned. "How do you know my name?" Adanma only smiled, her teeth bright, her eyes kind but deep too deep. She walked past the tailor's shop, past the fruit seller, greeting everyone by name. Some villagers muttered prayers under their breath. Others stared in awe. Children peeped from behind their mothers' wrappers, while men tilted their heads, confused and intrigued. At the big mango tree, where gossip brewed thicker than the morning fog, Mma Nnenna adjusted her wrapper and sipped her bottle of malt. Her dark sunglasses sat on her nose, even though the morning sun was still shy. She watched Adanma carefully, the way a cat watches a feathered fowl, curious, suspicious. "Humph," Mma Nnenna muttered. "Let me see who wants to outshine me in this town." When Adanma approached the mango tree, she smiled sweetly. "Good morning, Auntie Nnenna. Your wrapper is beautiful. Is it Hollandis?" Mma Nnenna blinked. Nobody ever complimented her wrapper, not without an ulterior motive. But Adanma's smile seemed sincere, her tone light. Against her better judgment, Mma Nnenna chuckled, motioning to the empty stool beside her. "Sit down, my dear. Let's talk." From that moment, the two became an unusual pair, the seasoned gossip and the strange newcomer. Each afternoon, they sat together under the mango tree, exchanging stories, sipping cold malt, peeling roasted ground nuts. Yet, it didn't take long for Mma Nnenna to feel the stirrings of unease. Adanma spoke with too much familiarity of things no stranger should know. She mentioned Mma Nnenna's secret debt, Obinna the tailor's missing sewing machine, and even the councilman's late-night visits to Chioma's backyard. Mma Nnenna narrowed her eyes behind her sunglasses. "This one has come with trouble," she thought. "Too much knowledge is dangerous." By the time the evening sun dipped behind the hills of Umuaro, whispering shadows across the village paths, a question buzzed like a restless mosquito in Mma Nnenna's mind. Who was Adanma? And what secret strings was she pulling beneath her soft words and glowing smile? Days passed, and Adanma became as familiar in Umuaro as the cry of the cockerel at dawn. She sat daily with Mma Nnenna under the big mango tree, her gold-bound book always by her side, like a second skin. But it wasn't just her beauty that turned heads, or her easy laugh that drew people in. It was the things she said, small, unsettling things. She told Mma Nnenna that her son had been secretly selling her tubers for extra coins. She whispered to Obinna the tailor that his apprentice had been sneaking cloth out of his shop. And each time, her words rang true. It wasn't long before villagers stopped seeing Adanma as just a beautiful stranger. Whispers followed her. Children dared each other to touch her hem and run. Men eyed her warily. Women crossed themselves when she smiled too long. But Mma Nnenna was not satisfied with whispers. She needed truth. One evening, after Adanma had left the market earlier than usual, Mma Nnenna sat alone, fingers tapping against her bottle of malt. She leaned back, staring at the shifting clouds. How does she know so much? The next morning, Mma Nnenna rose before the sun stretched its arms. She wrapped herself in an old blue ankara, tied a scarf around her head, and borrowed her cousin's rusted bicycle. She positioned herself near the bushes that lined the old missionary school, the place Adanma disappeared into every afternoon. Sure enough, as the church bell chimed 8, Adanma appeared gold-bound book in hand, her dress brushing lightly against the tall grasses. She glanced around, smiled softly, and without a moment's hesitation, walked straight toward the wall of the abandoned school. Mma Nnenna's eyes widened. Adanma didn't open a door, she passed through the cracked, moss-covered wall as if it were air. Mma Nnenna staggered backward, her heart thudding. Her knees trembled like a goat tied to a stake. Olua oh! What did I just see? She mounted her bicycle and pedaled home as fast as her old knees would allow. That night, Mma Nnenna could not sleep. She clutched her Bible, muttered half-remembered psalms, and turned restlessly, but sleep was a slippery fish. Every creak of the bamboo fence, every hoot of the night owl tightened the fear around her chest. Just as she finally closed her eyes, there was a knock, soft at first, then firmer. Knock, knock, knock. She froze, then she peeped through the curtain. Adanma. Standing there in a flowing white gown, golden book under her arm, smiling sweetly, a basket of roasted fish in hand. I brought something for you, Auntie Nnenna, Adanma said, her voice as soft as velvet. Mma Nnenna hesitated. Her belly rumbled. Fear wrestled with hunger. Slowly, she unbolted the door. Adanma stepped in gracefully and sat cross-legged on the bamboo chair as if it were her throne. She spoke not about weather or market prices, but of deeper things, the secret sadness of the market chief, the unspoken feud between the village midwives, the councilman's hidden shame. Mma Nnenna listened, her ground nuts forgotten in her lap, her mind racing. Adanma didn't speak like a gossip, she spoke like someone who knew, someone who heard the whispers before they became words. When Adanma finally rose to leave, she smiled once more. Some truths are too heavy to hide forever, she said, glancing at the golden book. Sleep well, Auntie. As the door closed, Mma Nnenna whispered to the shadows, her voice trembling, This is no ordinary woman. The next morning, Mma Nnenna wrapped herself tighter and hurried to the edge of the village to the hut of Dibia Okorie, the village's ancient keeper of secrets. The old man listened carefully, stroking his gray beard. She is no mere human, Dibia Okorie said at last. She is a spirit of whispers, cursed to roam, feeding on secrets, growing stronger with every truth revealed. Mma Nnenna gasped, her hands flying to her chest. Can she be stopped? The old man nodded slowly. Only if you can silence her golden book, but beware, the truth is a river. Once it flows, it will find its own path. Mma Nnenna left the shrine with a small gourd of sacred clay, her heart pounding with purpose. She would face Adanma. But first, she had to find the courage to look into the mirror that Adanma carried, the mirror that wore the face of truth. The next few days in Umuaro passed in a strange hush. The villagers, once lively with chatter and greetings, now moved with wary glances and whispered words. Adanma still sat under the big mango tree, her golden book resting quietly on her lap, her smile as radiant as ever, but the air around her was heavier now, like the moments before a storm. Mma Nnenna watched her carefully, the gourd of sacred clay hidden in the folds of her wrapper. She had gathered a small circle of trusted women, Mama Ifunanya, Chioma the market chief, Nwakaego the pastor's wife, and Ogechi, daughter of Councilman Chibundu, brave women who, like her, had felt the sting of Adanma's revelations. We must act wisely, Mma Nnenna instructed. We will not attack. We will invite her with smiles to the community center, a celebration. Ah, thank you, gathering. They agreed, and so the plan was set. The following day, the women swept the dusty floor of the old community center until it gleamed. They hung faded streamers, set out bowls of steaming jollof rice and peppered meat, and arranged chairs in a neat circle. At the center of the floor, just before the chair meant for Adanma, they sprinkled the sacred clay drawing, a hidden circle only they knew existed. When everything was ready, Mma Nnenna sent the invitation. Adanma arrived at sunset, wearing a flowing white wrapper, gold beads around her neck, and sandals that barely stirred the dust. She walked gracefully into the center, her golden book tucked under her arm. "This is lovely," she said, her smile genuine. "Is it all for me?" Mma Nnenna nodded, her heart thudding. "For the peace you have brought, Adanma." Adanma sat, and the women circled around her, smiling, offering plates of food. Mma Nnenna clutched the gourd tighter in her hand. When Adanma leaned forward to bless her meal, Mma Nnenna swiftly poured the sacred clay in a full circle around her. At first, nothing happened. Then, a ripple in the air, a soft, almost invisible shimmer around Adanma. Her eyes flicked up, sharp, bright. She smiled. But this smile was different, knowing, ancient. "You seek to silence me?" she said, her voice lower, deeper. The women shifted uneasily, but Mma Nnenna stood firm. "We seek peace. True peace." Adanma stood slowly, her gold-bound book now glowing faintly. The room seemed to hum with a soundless energy. "You think I bring only chaos," she said. "But listen." She opened the book. A soft light spilled out, and from it came voices, the very voices of the women standing before her. "I once told lies about my neighbor's daughter," confessed Kioma's voice. "I pretended I was childless to gain sympathy," whispered Mama Ifunanya's voice. "I took church money for my son's school fees," came Nwakaigo's voice. Mma Nnenna staggered as her own voice echoed. "I destroyed friendships with careless talk. I wore pride like a rapper." The women gasped, clutching their chests, ashamed and exposed. Tears-filled eyes, heads bowed low. Adanma closed the book gently. The golden glow faded. She stepped forward, standing just outside the sacred clay. "I am not your enemy," she said. "I am your reflection. The weight of truth is heavy, but it is yours to carry." With that, she turned and walked away, her golden book tucked firmly under her arm, leaving the women standing in silence, their secrets now naked before their own eyes. That night, Umuaro was quieter than it had ever been. Doors stayed shut, candles burned longer. Conversations, if they happened at all, were hushed, careful, deliberate. And under the big mango tree, the breeze whispered, carrying the scent of change. Mma Nnenna sat on her mat, staring into the night, her heart a strange mix of fear and freedom. Adanma was right. Truth was heavy, but hiding it was heavier. Morning broke over Umuaro, but it was not the same village that had once bubbled with careless laughter and careless words. The air was heavier, yes, but clearer too, like the calm after a heavy rain. People walked slower. Heads stayed bowed a little longer. Conversations were fewer, but somehow softer, truer. Eyes that once darted with mischief now held a quiet understanding. And Adanma? She remained under the big mango tree, but she no longer spoke. She sat quietly, her golden book resting on her lap, unopened. She watched the villagers pass by, watched and listened, but no longer whispered their secrets into the wind. No one dared approach her. Even the children, who once giggled and played around her feet, now watched from a distance. Mma Nnenna, too, kept her space. She had returned to her home after that night at the community center, locking her door not out of fear, but out of shame and reflection. For days, she did not touch her bottle of malt, nor sit at her usual spot under the mango tree. She sat on her bamboo mat, thinking of all the words she had spoken in her life, the stories told in jest, the gossip passed in whispers, the lies dressed up as laughter. On the 5th day, she stood up, washed her face, and dressed in a simple blue wrapper. She walked, slowly but surely, to the big mango tree, Villagers paused to watch her, their eyes wide with questions. Adanma looked up and smiled the same soft smile she had worn the first day she arrived. Mma Nnenna took a deep breath and sat beside her. They said nothing for a long while. The wind rustled through the mango leaves, the village life murmuring quietly in the background. Finally, Mma Nnenna spoke. "You are not just a spirit of whispers," she said, her voice trembling. "You are a mirror." Adanma nodded, a gentle glint in her eyes. "I see what is already there," Adanma replied softly. "But people hate mirrors when they do not like the reflection." Mma Nnenna sighed, the weight of her years pressing on her shoulders. "Then teach me," she said. "Teach me to carry truth with care." Without a word, Adanma lifted the golden book and placed it on Mma Nnenna's lap. The book was surprisingly light, but it radiated a warmth that seeped into her fingers. "Truth is not for gossip," Adanma said. "It is for healing, for building, for setting free." Mma Nnenna clutched the book to her chest. It felt like holding the sun. Weeks passed, and slowly, Umuaro began to change. People spoke more carefully, listened more deeply. Secrets were no longer weapons, they were lessons. Mma Nnenna transformed too. She no longer gathered under the mango tree to trade gossip for laughter. Instead, she sat with villagers who carried heavy burdens, listening, advising, comforting. She became the village's first counselor, not a gossip, but a keeper of truths and healer of hearts. As for Adanma, she stayed a little while longer, watching from the shadows of the mango tree, her mission nearly complete. One sunny afternoon, a little girl Chidinma approached her. "Auntie Adanma," she asked, her voice clear and innocent, "why don't you talk anymore?" Adanma smiled and leaned closer, brushing a stray curl from Chidinma's forehead. "Because, my dear," she whispered, "the town has finally started talking to itself." And with that she stood, dusted her wrapper, and walked away, her golden book tucked under her arm, her footsteps light as feathers against the earth. The wind carried the mango leaves in gentle swirls behind her, and the village of Umuaro, forever changed, watched her go, hearts lighter and wiser than before. Years passed in Umuaro, and though seasons changed and people aged, one story never faded: the story of the woman who walked through walls and carried a golden book of truths. Children who once feared Adanma now spoke her name with wonder. They gathered under the big mango tree, asking elders to tell the tale of the Mirror Spirit, the one who revealed what the village had long tried to hide. But Adanma never returned. Her name remained, but she became a myth, a memory. Some said she moved to another town. Others said she faded into the wind the moment Umuaro healed. Whatever the truth, no one could deny what she left behind. The village that once whispered now spoke openly. When a man made a mistake, he confessed it himself. When a woman felt hurt, she said it plainly. Families healed, friendships were repaired. Secrets, when carried, were shared with trust, not traded for entertainment. At the heart of this change was Mma Nnenna. The former gossip queen had become a voice of wisdom. Every afternoon, she sat under the mango tree, not with malt and groundnuts, but with an open heart. People came to her not to hear about others, but to understand themselves. In her small wooden shelf sat the golden book. She rarely opened it now. She didn't need to. The villagers had learned that truth was no longer something to fear, but something to grow from. And so, life in Umuaro flourished. There were still mistakes, there were still secrets, but something fundamental had shifted: a respect for the weight of words and the power of silence. One evening, just as the sky turned gold, Mma Nnenna sat with a new generation of children under the mango tree. She held a small notebook in her hand and told them stories not of gossip, but of choices, of courage, of learning to listen to the voice within. Before they left, one little boy asked, "Auntie Nnenna, is Adanma real?" She smiled, her eyes soft and far away. "She was real enough to change us," she said. "And sometimes that's all the proof we need." Then she leaned down, whispering gently as she closed her book. "Truth may be heavy, but hiding it is heavier." The wind danced through the mango branches as if in agreement, and somewhere far beyond Umuaro, where the earth meets the sky, a woman with a golden book smiled her work, once again, complete.